No sneezing. All right. Here we go.
If you're sitting here watching this stream today, you cannot underestimate how ahead of the curve you are right now.
Bitcoin looks tired. Altcoins look hungry.
I'm just not quite sure that Bitcoin has any more sauce.
I still think this thing is really worth a lot more than it is.
This stuff's spooky, man. These Chaos PRZs are intense.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Solana is highly performant and has the team with the experience to support it.
$4,800 Ethereum. That's a big, big move here.
Whatever you do, always play from a position of strength. Welcome back, everybody, to DeltaFi on Hxro Labs live. No, Hxro Labs. We are live. We got Gunny, myself, RT in the studio today. Shout out to Rob Levy, who's on the mend from a little Rona, and as well as Messi on the mend.
Both of them smoked.
Yeah.
They got smoked.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to fix your audio. We're going to get this right.
Uh-oh.
No, you're good. It's just very powerful. You brought the heater today. Audio
Come
mixer.
on, I'm always bringing the heat, baby. Let's go.
I gotta cool you off a little here. And then you got your notoriously loud keyboard.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
All right, get out of the chats, kid. We're live. You guys let me know. How's Gunny's audio now? Say something, Gunny.
What's up, boys and girls? Feels good to be back. How long has it been?
It's been a long time. I've been live maybe 3 times in the last couple of months here, Hxro Labs Live. I think that's good for audio, guys. You're going to have to let us know in the chat. Is the chat open? Yeah, there it is. Hello, chat. All good? Sounds fine. Okay, excellent. Yeah, I was live a couple times. I don't think we've been live on DeltaFi for like months. And it was Rob and I did like an interim, but the final sort of, dream team of the 4 of us, I think, was like in January.
Yeah.
And I miss it. I really do. Hearing that intro at the start here just brings back all the nostalgia. Rob talking about 4,800 Ethereum. Oh, those were the days. We had it all.
Super Bowl.
It's admittedly a different market now as we come back in, seeing the SPX down 23%. I'm going to say on the year. Yeah, it basically peaked January 3rd. But we're not here to talk about the S&P. So I don't know why that's the first chart.
I mean, for the last couple of months, in the last few months, talking about crypto is talking about the S&P. It's
sadly
become the evil ugly stepsister.
Yeah, and it's really hard to escape that. If nothing else, and I always say this before, like when you're a bull, there's nothing you'd rather than to be able to buy more at a cheaper price. So while there may be a ton of institutional bids resting out there, lurking, I don't think anybody's in a rush to be like, oh, I'm going to buy my Bitcoin at 28,000 if they think that there's a decent chance they can buy it at 21, 16, 12.
And I get the question is are you going to have a chance to buy it at 28,000 on the way up, which is usually the safer bet, right?
Exactly. That's the other part of it, right? So maybe I don't get my 12K bids in down here. They don't hit, but whatever. There's going to be an uptrend later. I can catch that. And at least they're thinking there's going to be an uptrend later. No guarantees.
What are we peak to valley on Bitcoin right now?
Let's check it out. Ooh. There we go. We're like pretty strong 71. Maybe a little bounce, 69. If we drop 69K or 69% from 69K to mark the bottom, that would be still Bitcoin.
The meme of all memes.
Yeah, that'd be peak meme. We are at a key
and then
level.
up move to 420,000.
Yeah, that sounds better. We're at previous all-time highs, which, as you know, has never happened. Following a bullish breakout to new all-time highs, we've always kind of peaked above the previous all-time highs, or finished the bear. So I think no matter what, there's got to be some kind of bid here. I'd be shocked if there isn't. I wouldn't be caught with my pants down. I'm not gonna put all my cash in here, but I'm certainly adding in the 2021 area a little bit. after admittedly adding a few times too soon and having to cut on these big breakdowns because I just use stop losses. But what have you been doing? I mean, the big call to action here, as I see it for us, is to just set the record straight, put a little bit of sanity back in the market, because at these extremes, and we are at an extreme. In fact, I have never seen a cluster like this on the fear and greed index. I mean, even back through the March 2020s, we bounced a lot quicker than this. This is like a month below 20 on fear. So the way I see it, how we might serve our audience today is to just talk rationally. What are you seeing in the market? What are you doing these days?
I'm building like a motherfucker. First of all, I've always found these, the counter-cyclical nature in me has been to build and to ramp when the market's quiet and try to catch some momentum on the way out of a bear. Like when we launched Hxro, the platform we launched Moonrect in 2019, we were at like peak fucking bear. I mean, it was as salty as salty you can get. Joel was telling me about it. Yeah, I feel like there was 1/10 the amount of people in the space at the time, and it ended up being the bottom. And same concept here, spinning up Hxro Network, albeit a much larger, more ambitious, more ecosystem community driven project. So taking us a little longer than expected, but we're here now, and so I actually think the timing is going to be perfect. And other than that, you guys know me, like I'm a swing trader, so I don't short the market even when I'm bearish. I don't think it sticks with my long-term objectives of trading, and I don't want to have the 1 in 100 shot of being in a position where I'm short and the market is moving higher, and now I'm one of those people that I loathe who short all the way up. And I was there once upon a time trading NASDAQ stocks in my early 20s because I made a considerable amount of money in the crash of the NASDAQ from basically from late October 2000 and then all the way through like March, April 2001. And so I always had a lean towards the short side, and it definitely makes trading a lot harder when you're fighting those trends. So because I'm building, because I have a lot of responsibilities around Hxro Network and building out the ecosystem, being heavily focused there, I'm going to what I'm doing is I'm basically looking at things like Solana, like AVAX, some of the classic blue chips, L1s, some of the L2s, or some of the kind of picks and shovels projects, Arweave, things like that are absolutely mutilated right now. And Solana down 90% is absolutely insane to me. So I had a couple bids filled yesterday. I sprinkled some AVAX in a week before that, and I'm just going to continue to sprinkle in from the cash that I've had on the sidelines. I was fortunate with Solana, which was a large position of mine for a long time. When I got out to Lisbon, in full disclosure, last November, there was like a certain level of euphoria, and I hate to talk down on Solana because it's where a lot of my life is invested in at this point. But from a trading perspective, it was so euphoric, and I think Raj had that infamous "I'll kill you" tweet, and I felt like people were getting out over their skis a little bit, and it was getting a little ridiculous. And so I offloaded started to offload some position there.
You can see that. I'm just pulling up your tweet.
Oh, yeah.
I saw it. And that's a great visualization of really, a veteran way to play these markets, where you just know to spot the signs, you get out, you chill.
Crypto is so reflexive, and it moves so heavy one way and so heavy the other way, which is what reflexivity is. It's like higher prices beget higher prices. It begets more excitement. The psychology is so extreme, and it's again still early. That's early tech. So it makes it a little easier if you have other things to keep you occupied. But that's been my play, and I'm gonna sprinkle some. I'm never 100% all in, albeit like I go to bed at night and I fucking tell myself every time, like when we come out of this and we start to curl, like I'm gonna shove, and I'm gonna remortgage my house, and I'm gonna put my kids' like I'm gonna put everything I have into it, and I tell myself it every time. But then there's always the safety belt side of me that always wants to leave a little cash, and I'll be happy slapping doubles and triples versus like grand slams all the time.
It's crazy to think that a 3x on Solana is $100. Like a rally here to these big lows that we've lost. That's a 300% rally now. Which in some ways, some people look at that and they say, well, that makes it seem like unlikely. I've seen the elasticity of markets. If this thing was going to die and go to zero, it wouldn't be a straight line. Do we go from here or from some other level? But like, to me, this level gets a test someday from somewhere.
Look at the volume profile, right? Like that, like
we're living
markets get stretched, and like I'd like to see a wick down from here, like as opposed to this kind of like just orderly downtrend. But it's either a wick or if you see a wick, you're going to see a V bottom. If you see that long drawn out kind of curl, which is what I think we're going to do. What would seem logical to me is that we go into a quiet period and we get into this period where the market actually, I mean like traders, become more or less disinterested.
Yes.
And they're just kind of at the point where they're just over it. And when they get over it, then that's kind of the time where you want to be.
That was right here in 2018, December.
Yeah. Can you pull up 2020 too? Like, because I remember distinctly, like me and Messi being on, like, being up like late at night when like DeFi kind of 1.0 was starting to curl.
That must be right here. And Bitcoin was in this extremely painfully tight range. And these are 3-day candles. So that was about July. That was about a month.
I remember we were loading up on like Reserve and Dusk.
RSR?
And
I like RSR too. I got a double off RSR,
We were loading up on Dusk, and we caught like this first little move, and then everything came back in, and then everything got fucking sent. And that, like, those were the signals to me. Like, you also, man, if you've been around long enough, you can feel it, right? You just, like, even though it's not like we're standing in a trading pit and you can feel everybody's energy, but.
Well, look, there was top signals, but there was top signals months before the top. And I think that's what fucks with people, right? Because you see all these top signals, you decide you want to play safe. And I actually talked to a few people that did this. And then, through this, some people held and then they were rewarded. So they thought, okay, next time we go down, I'm definitely holding because I got rewarded. The bull market tends to breed complacency, just like the bear market tends to breed complacency. And then you stop paying attention. We had bottom signals here. I was noticing some bottom signals here for what it was, but it gets darker. And I laughed at that goblin thing that went live a few weeks ago because I said, dude, if this marks the bottom, like the night these goblins just went live for like 4 hours, just like gobbler. And it was actually really funny. I listened to it for about 45 minutes, just kind of in the background. And I was like, these guys are hilarious. And then that actually did mark the local bottom. So I thought that was interesting. But they're adding up.
Yeah.
And they're adding up. And you don't want to lose sight of them just because they didn't work,
I think there's, like, if we can point to a couple of signals that maybe don't necessarily mark a bottom, but they're bottom signals. Like, first of all, the Fed going on the Fed's rhetoric moving from extremely hawkish to even like a neutral position, or like we're monitoring inflation closely, like where the odds of a rate hike start to go down. I think that's one signal that you at least will start to get some reversion back to the mean of the bell curve, basically the mean of the volume distribution, and barring any kind of black swan outlier move, you start to move back into value and then settle out. And then from there, it's like, and we've talked about this a ton, the biggest signal to me is just like the contango of the Bitcoin futures curve.
Futures? Like, do you foresee a time when the GBTC premium comes back into play? Something like that? Right now it's trading, I don't know, Rob put out a tweet, I was going to ask him about it today, but he put out something along the lines, I don't know, it was a beta or a delta. Let's go see Robbie's Twitter.
Robbie's, he put out a nice tweet out yesterday.
Something about GBTC, I think it was maybe last week. This one last night, worth a read. Basically, it's the take I expected to hear from him today if he could make it. Unfortunately, for those of you asking, he is down and out, not feeling well. Yeah, right here. Some of the best pure BTC deltas to buy right now are via GBTC. This isn't about not your keys, not your coins. This is about deltas trading too cheap, in his opinion. The risk reward of the GBTC discount to spot. So it almost feels like the sharp trade is approaching there, where that premium trade kind of obviously didn't age too well for a lot of people who were locked.
I think some of the, I mean, I know I say this every time, but it's the God's honest truth, because it's most of the circles that I run in are with, guys that are managing reasonably sized funds or at dinners or parties or whatever with people that are managing other people's money or managing their own. But there is like some major amount of cash coming in. It's here already. It's several VCs started new funds. Lots of trading desks started new funds that are not trading just prop, but trading other people's capital. A lot of sovereign wealth, a lot of pension, a lot of like university endowments. Just had a dinner with the CIO of the Harvard endowment. We had drinks after with the head of the Northwestern endowment, and all of them they're getting invested in crypto through funds, and I think the long-term objectives, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, is that that's their first step. It's how the gatekeepers, who are their consultants that need sign-off on the investments they make, get comfortable. But the next step from there is going to be direct, and they're going to start chasing these types of trades. They're going to look for GBTC at a discount. And a lot of the trades that I'm seeing actually right now, just to kind of even pivot off of the Bitcoin discussion, is a short Bitcoin, long ETH trade.
I've heard about that one once or twice. Explain that to us. What's the point? Short Bitcoin, long ETH.
I think it comes down to just general convexity. And for those that don't understand the concept of convexity, is just it's your way of buying cheap optionality and like cheap asymmetric upside. So getting things really cheap, and then like that kind of logarithmic run up of a you have much higher probability of that happening in Ethereum than you do in Bitcoin right now, where Bitcoin's kind of become the I guess the grandpa. And
the merge is still a thing.
One reason the merge is still a thing. There's, and it's just the ETH ends up being the on-ramp into, thousands of other high convexity opportunities. And so does Solana, so does AVAX. Like, that's where it's at. And guys, like, it doesn't feel like it now, but just like go back to 6 months ago. Like, you're going to have that feeling again. This is the dance that crypto markets do. And
I actually saw a really good tweet. I'm going to find it and pull it up. Oh, I buried it in the chat somewhere. But is basically the idea that it is through this summer, perhaps even until next summer, right? We don't really know the when of it. It's the how it's going to happen that seems fairly predictable, at least in my mind, having been through it a couple times. But Ryan C. Adams, I actually don't know who this is. So if he's somebody that Somebody
think
doesn't
he's
like here.
an ETH maxi.
Going bankless, whatever kind of person he is. But it's this idea that when crypto goes in its next bull run, he's predicting obviously ETH hitting 10K, BTC 150. I don't think that's out of the question. He says they'll say you got lucky. And it's like, no, it was the summer of 2022. That's when you earned it. And that's kind of how I see this. A lot of people, it's incredible for me to watch the psychology of the market evolve.
Yeah.
When you're up here at the highs and everyone and their grandma is saying about how, I wish I got cheaper. When it goes cheaper, I'm going to buy. And I asked myself, what will be the narrative at the lows that will convince me and most other people not to buy? Because there always is one. Just like what will be the narrative right at the fucking highs, the worst possible time to buy something that will convince you to click buy.
That you're going to FOMO, right?
Yeah, like, Bitcoin's 69, but it's okay because it's going to 200. You're not supposed to buy there. Fear and greed at 88, bearish divergence, like lack of volume, like no buy volume.
Yeah, you don't have to. Like
we're all buying, right? And
everybody says the best trade. Like this is stuck with me for a long time. Like great trades are all about your entry, not your exit. Like if you exit, if you watch something go 100x and you don't take something off the table, like you're a fucking jackass. Like, you don't deserve the money.
You should not be 1000xing anything. Unless you're getting paid a strong yield or you had to lock it up to get there or something.
Or 1000x on the last like 20% of the position.
Yeah.
It just does it doesn't make sense to me.
No, and it comes back to the rotation game that Messi talked about, which actually I learned from him last summer, this idea that, if I hold something to 10x and then I just take the profit, I turn $10 into 100 and I take that 100 and I put $20 into 5 things and they 5x, and that kind of idea of divide and conquer, and you're also reducing risk as you do it, instead of just trying to sit on something to get 100x and maybe you get 60 and then it drops back down and you're like, well, I'm fucking stupid. So that was a big wake up call for me mathematically last summer. I adopted that a little more aggressively and it worked out great. The old rotator meme. Now, we're at extreme fear. Again, we have not seen, it's fairly unprecedented, this level of fear on the fear and greed index. We've seen scores at 7 and 8 for sure, not in clusters that lasted this long. So what is it that now, like, I can't even believe we're talking about $21,000 Bitcoin. We're staring at it. Like a month ago, even this was a meme. It was like, Bitcoin's not going to 20K. Like a lot of people just scoffed at it. But it was the idea that, well, if it did, everyone would just buy it. Not everyone's buying it, as you can see. We're still going down on the daily 3 days. So what is this narrative? How has this psychology just hijacked us? And how powerful is it? Are we not going to get the bid at 20K that I imagine we will? And then if we look back here, just say in a year, 2 years.
If there's a bid at 20K and if you think that there's like huge stops below it, it's going to get broke. It's going to get broken. Like they're going to break 20K. Like the market, as the market matures and it becomes more professional, I guess quote unquote professionals are involved, they're gonna, like 98% of market are chasing stops.
Yeah,
it's basically stop hunting at every time frame. Like you look at it, you see it in high frequency, you see it, like just think about how BitMEX works or how any perp markets work. Like they relentlessly go in one direction until they spit it, they puke. They get liquid. It's like pendulums, and then at longer time frames, you start to you do the same thing, but at just at key levels, and they generally tend to get rinsed out, and the market looks for those vacuums. It looks for that those liquidity pockets, and
for anyone who's not sure why, because it didn't occur to me. I didn't learn this until sometime last year, but the reason you might hunt stops if you're a large player in the market is because the best place, and this actually came from a Sam Trabucco thread, but the best place to buy something is at a level where somebody didn't even want to sell it to. Forced sellers, liquidation levels, stop losses. If my stop loss hits, I'm selling it because I feel like the market's going to keep going down. I don't want to sell it there. It's a bad price to sell, but I do it to manage risk. If someone can force me into that situation and buy from me at that price and then just run it back, this is why the game at the higher level, that works that way. They can push the market.
I'm one of
around.
these assholes that just like, I'd be more public on it on Twitter, but like I don't use stops. I don't believe in them because I feel like that they're just made to get hunted.
Well, you're not a trader too, right? So you're not sitting there scalping. If you scalp and you've got some leverage and some size on, and you don't use stops, like that's where the liquidations come in. But given your style of trading, you almost don't need it because you're buying essentially, multi-month
for the next,
lows.
like,
Yeah,
multi-month lows. I'm looking for I'm looking for blood, and then on the way up, like I want to participate in the up move. Like I hate being. It's just not my nature to be a sideline guy. So like I'll often pay up or like try to sweep offers out of a book to just like help perpetuate the move and to add to my position, and then like do what's called like gamma trading around my larger position. But right now it's like you're only, that looks like, when you show it like that.
This is your baby right here. This 88.6 on a coin you like, and I have no doubt that that's part of why you picked some up last week. Ironically, the best trade arguably that I made last year was through July when I decided to stop trying to overthink it, stop trying to stop loss and set up. And I just said, fuck it, I'm buying some Solana. And then I bought some Ray and I bought some Serum and I bought some, I bought a handful of Solana basket plays. And then go figure, we went into like a Solana season. We got some chaos levels. I got out. And looking back, that was probably easily the best trades of the year I made. And it was like your style. It was that kind of midterm swing that I'm trying to get into. Not only because I think it's the more profitable way to do it, and it's certainly the less sweaty and stressful way to do it, because you're not sitting there every day looking at 5-minute charts, but it also gives you freedom to build something, to take care of my family, to go out and play golf. Like whatever you want to do with your life, you can do if you can identify big swings in markets and find value at low levels and then actually hold until it's greed. And of course up here, everyone was like, new paradigm, we're going to 500. And I was just like, similar to you, I was like, I actually did sell a lot here. And then I felt like a tool right here, but I didn't buy it back. Thank God. And
I mean, I know a couple of funds that went to Lisbon just while we're on the Sol topic. Like when I started to cover some of it too, like it was like, this is getting, as much as I love it, like it's getting crazy. And this,
I sold at this chaos level, like most of my stuff, and I felt like a boss for like a few weeks, and then I was like, oh no, I sold early. I was actually getting chirped. I was getting dunked on here. For you guys on Twitter were like, hey man, your chaos level getting left behind. I was like, fuck off. So look, let's talk hash ribbons.
It's a tool.
Yeah, it's just one tool, but it worked. I got out. In fact, while we're on that subject, let's just take a quick look at Ray. I was looking at this chart the other day, absolutely wrecked, obviously. But same kind of thing, right? This was our summer lull. I was DCAing a little bit, and then it was like chaos, sell some. Oh no, I got left behind, chaos, sell some. And at the time, you're always not selling the highs. But then, a year later, like, well, goddamn, at least I had an exit, right? At least I knew kind of like this chart's all cooked. I haven't been on it for a while, apparently. But let's take a real quick look at the hash ribbons, because this is probably one of the best, if not the best, long-term sort of indicators or tools historically. Right here. So it's about, the hash rate. I don't know exactly how it's calculated. I'm not going to explain it all. But basically it fires buy signals after there's a period of minor capitulation, and then they recover and it fires a buy signal. Now, if you go historically, it has fired, this isn't even the best chart. Let's go look at Bitstamp. So it's got a little more history. But if you go historically on this one, it has fired buy signals. Obviously, Bitcoin has only gone up long term, so every buy signal looked like a win. But right here at the peak, so that was actually a terrible signal, its first one, so nothing's perfect. Right here, in the months leading after a buy signal, it's just been strong. Now, I don't know about 2013, but let's go here. It basically marked the bottom here. Anybody accumulating through that first buy signal, there was 3 during this trough, and then we went into the next bull. Same kind of thing. We capitulated through this. That was 2016, before my time. Not sure what that lull was, but same thing. Continued bull. Did not fire again until the bottom trough of the 2018-2019 bear market. Same thing. Fires a buy signal. The only one during my time when I was watching it that it kind of fucked up was here. Then we got the COVID dump and obviously moved off from there. But there was 3 buy signals through this trough leading up to this. Another mid, and then we got kind of a fake out here last year. So again, not a perfect indicator, but for longer term swing stuff, when you see this minor capitulation start, which it just did basically last week, I'm inclined, even though I am trying to buy some of this 20K stuff because I feel like there's a bounce coming, I'm inclined to wait until I see that next buy signal, and then by then we'll have either sideways from here or down from here. I don't see like a V bottom personally. And you know, I'd like to wait for that buy signal. What do you make of that? Have you ever looked at the hash ribbons?
No. You know me, man. I try to just keep it as simple as possible. And, that 80% cycle level is always good to start strapping it on and things, and in things that like that I know are like well funded, have real teams behind them, or are like a Bitcoin type of network. But that and like the 12 and 26 moving averages, have you looked at those in a while?
Yeah, I keep them on usually. I've kind of switched into the higher like 200s because we're into this like kind of high time frame bear stuff. But let's take a look at those in a sec. Just real quick, we're at 70. Yeah, no, that's a tool that, it's such a high time frame tool that I rarely look at it until we're getting really into like the grease. But it is definitely like where I'll go, okay, hash ribbon buy signal, and I'll buy a couple Bitcoin or something. Like I'll put a few percent into it.
Yeah, so like what are we like? So 69, 80%. Like so
we're basically
like
70,
14.8, 14.6, something like that.
Yeah. So then I was like, okay, so where's our 80% is like 13 basically to 11. Like 11 to 14 is basically your like 80 to 85% range, which is historically marked the lows, which is interesting because that is also like the next major level everyone's looking at and should be, and I remember when we broke out from this, I was sitting back thinking like, this level will get a retest. Obviously we've come so far from it. So I don't want to sit here and be like, we're going to 12 because I think that's, I just don't want it to happen, but it's very possible. And a lot of smart people I know are calling for it, or at least saying they're going to wait for it. And what's interesting is it kind of reminds me, now that I look at it this way, of here. We broke out of that 42, and I remember just thinking, okay, I'll wait for the retest. And well, lo and behold, almost a year later, that March 2020 dump was just a retest. It was the 88.6 off that level. And I do know some guys at TRI that were like, finally, we got the Wyckoff check, and they bought that. That was $4,300 Bitcoin. So, yeah, from a purely TA perspective, the next logical place if we lose 20K could be pretty dumpy straight to 12. And that would be your sweet spot. That would be your 80, 83%.
Yeah, I'd be way more inclined to shove there. Like, I have bids in there now, but if they get hit, they get hit. It's not like I'm not expecting them to get hit. I'm not rooting for it to necessarily go there. It wouldn't bother me because I'm not looking at it like I'll look at it again when we're starting to cycle up. But and hopefully if that happens, it's not from like 6,000 Bitcoin.
Or like the year 2027.
Yeah, or exactly like I think Scott Melker put a tweet out like he's like 2025 is going to be a great year. Like
yeah. Well, and that's how it happens, right? The targets get absurd for downside and for long term. And that's really the fear. And I kind of laugh at that too, because guys are like, well, I know it's going to 200K, but I'm going to play this, like try to get it perfectly because I don't want to wait very long once I'm in. And I think if that's your style, if you don't want to have too much gray hair by the time you're 35, I would suggest waiting for an uptrend. Imagine it was that simple.
You're gonna get them back. Like you're gonna have a chance to get these levels on. Like let's talk about the psychology of like the different kind of segments of a market cycle. Like when it's bloody, all you're doing is your timeline is just like negative news, right? And it becomes really difficult to buy blood. And you're like, I'm going to wait till we get to some level. And then it gets to that level and literally like 8 out of 10 people are like, okay, I'm going to wait till it gets to the next level lower. And because you're effectively you're scared. And also because you don't really have a catalyst to be putting the position on. And so either you kind of dabble and test the water, or you are like everybody in their like you go to Thanksgiving and your wife isn't talking to you, and your mother is telling your aunt how you used to be rich and now you're broke, and you feel like shit about yourself, and so you don't do anything, and you miss it. And then so there's that, and then like you start to move up, and you're like, okay, now that we've moved off this 20,000 level and we're at 23, I'm going to wait till it pulls back and retest 20,000. And then 6 weeks later, you're at 31,000. And you never get the trade on. And so like at some point, like this is the general psychology of what most traders go through, right? Like, don't you agree? Mm-hmm. At bottoms, and then you're like, fuck, I missed it.
But it's going to come back.
But it's going to come back. There's going to be some negative. And then you go in this period of like, wait, there is like all the negative news has now been suppressed. Everything's hunky dory. We're talking about DeFi 7.0. And, it's all about, now all the scammy pay group guys come back and like they start getting loud again, and shitcoins start moving. And next thing you know, like you've swapped your Bitcoin into Asscoin, and like it just perpetuates itself.
Tell me there won't be another Asscoin rally sometime in the future, and I'll call you a fucking liar.
Exactly. Believe me.
So
I own a crypto dick butt. Like there's definitely going to be a dick butt coin at some point.
I mean, it is, well, and that's actually my background. I studied in university while you were doing finance. I was studying psychology, and so this is what drew me into charting, because it is, you can see human emotion grouped in price moves. Now, it's hard to imagine, obviously, as it's happening, it's very hard to say for sure where we're at. I heard some talk about, that this was our complacency shoulder and it was just driven extra high. And so, in fact, it was a higher high, but it makes sense that was complacency, and it was. We were complacent as fuck. I think I was with you in Lisbon having dinner, talking about taking over the world. And then, we had definitely some anxiety, some denial right here. That was me longing ETH right into the highs and into AVAX, and then having to cut my position. And now we're seeing signs of panic. I mean, clear panic in the market. There's 3AC rumored and almost, I think, at this point confirmed to have been just dusted with some type of play.
It's legit. I actually got that. I started to hear whispers pretty early, and the numbers were, I mean, even for me, were somewhat shocking. And I had asked a few people, and obviously not going, like, I have a ton of respect for Kyle and Sue, and would never like publicly talk about it, but the few trusted friends I had inquired to, and just said, hey, are you tracking this? And what really alarmed me was that there was a rumor that their liabilities were greater than their assets, which was telling me that they're basically they couldn't pay back their credit lines with, like, who could be like Genesis, or it could be some firm that's kind of acting as an intermediary, almost as like a PB in a way. Yeah. And then generally those types of entities will just start market dumping to cover.
Setting up for a domino effect almost.
Like
it's not like they ran out of money. They ran out of someone else's money.
Correct.
It sounds like, and that's the FUD that I'm hearing now, right? Wait, which lenders are going to be on the hook for their massive amounts of money? To me, it seems like Celsius had something to do with it, because Celsius went down and suddenly Three Arrows is in trouble.
Archie,
it's
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
On that note, like, is Celsius is the Celsius issue an issue of insolvency? Or is it an issue of rehypothecation?
You're going to have to start again.
They're not
much slower.
Okay. Like the thing that I'm not clear on, and I've been trying to get some, and maybe someone in the chat can comment on it. Like, is Celsius a a liquidity issue?
That's what Coach is saying, yeah, in the chat.
Yeah, like is it a liquidity issue or is it an insolvency issue? Insolvency is very different. Liquidity is when it comes to customer funds, provided that they're acting as proper fiduciaries, like if they're rehypothecating customer funds, which basically means they're taking customer funds when they're put on deposit, and those funds are basically temporarily in control of Celsius, and Celsius then takes those funds and allocates them how they see fit. Maybe they're using them for their own margin or to help collect, to make interest for their own treasury, and maybe those funds are locked up, and what they end up with is this liquidity mismatch. And so they have the ability basically to stop withdrawals because there's a liquidity mismatch because too many of the customer funds have been rehypothecated. And is that an issue? Which if that's the case, I don't deal with Celsius at all, and I don't have the time to dig into their docs. But if that's the case, and that's what people have signed up for with it, then it's a liquidity issue, and it's transitory. We'll move past it.
Yeah, we're getting some really good commentary in the chat here, because I mean, if you've been in crypto at all this past few weeks, I'm sure you've done some research into this. Coach saying that he thinks Celsius is mostly a liquidity problem, that all of their ETH is locked in Lido, and that's obviously a part of how they're providing that yield. And I guess they played it as, well, if not everyone withdraws at once, it's okay. We can service 20,000 ETH. We can't service 200,000 ETH or whatever. And so in that sense, give it some time and people can have their money back. To Sol is bringing in saying he heard rehypothecation, that they're lending out to shorters. There's a lot going on in the rumor mill right now. I think the bottom line is when you have something you're calling DeFi and then you stop withdrawals, it raises a lot of eyebrows.
But it's not DeFi at all.
It seemed like it was to me because it's on chain, right? It's different than, for example, like I go to Nexo, I deposit into their thing. It's like an exchange, right? Whereas I think Celsius was set up to feel like DeFi. Obviously, it's not. I think even a lot of people prior to this could have said that. To me, I always thought of it was a DeFi protocol.
Listen, the second that they're taking custody of your funds, it's not a DeFi protocol. Anyway, doesn't mean that they're not taking those funds and locking them into DeFi vaults.
Okay, so Coach is saying it's just never been DeFi. So I'm just misinformed. Obviously, I've never used it. I think I went to it once, but it was deposit here. But that's really all DeFi, right? It's deposit into this smart contract, and then the question is, well, who's pulling that fund out on the back end of the smart contract to, I guess, lend it out or something? I don't know. I'll tell you this though, it's going to have a domino effect. 3AC seems to be next in line after Luna, Celsius, now 3 Arrows. It seems hard to imagine that that's the last one to fall. If they've even fallen, right? I mean, Sue came on and said we're working through it. They may be able to, get bailed out or whatever that's going to look like. But this is the FUD. This is the fear. And this is how in 2 years, if we look back at 21K Bitcoin and maybe it's somewhere near the lows, at least in some bottom range area, and we'll go what were we doing? Why wasn't I buying, kicking myself? I'm not saying that that'll be the case, but from wherever the bottom comes in, there will be some mental fuckery that stops most people, the vast majority, from building positions. And I just always find that fascinating. We are not in a depression phase yet. We're still in high intensity, like you said, where people just check out. I could see that being this summer, where we just kind of get angry and bored and then eventually depressed. And that's,
by the way, great time to check out. As someone who was almost 25 years in TradFi markets, the summer doldrums are a very standard, normal thing. You do not trade or you tamper your expectations of your P&L during summer months because, and it used to be because so much was controlled around New York or London, and
off to the Hamptons.
Half of New York is in the Hamptons, and everyone in London is in Ibiza, blowing coke off of hookers, I think they do that.
Sorry, I'll be out of the office all summer.
I think they're doing that in the city too, but And but yeah, like so you really try to like during the summer I would take weeks off or try to go in and literally like print a couple $1,000 and get the hell out of there and try to get to the golf course. Like it's a great time to reset and check in with your family and you know, and sit back and wait. And like I think some of the signal that you'll see too is like if we're talking about some dominoes falling, is like the first few dominoes fall, but then there's some other like the Fed starts to talk about going on hold, and then you see another domino fall, or you hear a rumor, and then you get a little sell off, but it doesn't quite hit as hard.
Yeah,
like it kind of just like
the velocity of the down move
disappears quickly.
Yeah, the velocity of the down move will shrivel up.
People get tired. Bears get tired selling. Like you get tired of like, oh, this short didn't work. Like the risk of the market is now skewed back to the upside. You start to see big funds come in and start, you know, buying upside calls, or they're buying upside call spreads, like taking positions like that because upside optionality is super cheap. And then like, that's it.
It really does come back to what you said earlier about being just simplifying it. And it's so elementary to say, it's almost probably insulting to some, but it's like up here, we ran out of buyers. You could see it coming. There was no more buy volume coming in. Right now, we have a ton of sellers. We're moving down fast. We've got a lot of sell volume. Eventually, you know, we will roll into a position. You know, what's that going to look like? I don't know. But it comes and then it's like boop, and there's just like no sell volume there. And so right here, it's like, oh, we were going to break to a new level, and then just like nobody showed up, and you're like, okay, I guess the selling has slowed. And that's typically what I try to be patient for. And as I'm talking today, I'm actually noticing some flaws in my own shit this week while I'm sitting around, like, you know, just maybe trying too aggressively to get into a position too quickly or too big. And as we're talking, I'm like, God, you're fucking right. Like, it's going to be like August, and we're going to have carved out some range on the weekly, and it's going to be boring, and it'll be at whatever price it's at, but it will be sideways shit. And there will be signals there that either the sellers have died on a break to new lows, or that the buyers have shown up with some nice volume. And if I can bring myself to be flush with cash at that point, or just have have any at all would be nice, and then just be ready to deploy. And I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna toot our horn from our ideas section, which I'd love to get going. There's just no real trades to do right now. But when I look at the market and I say, okay, I've got X cash. Everyone comes to the market with some amount of cash, and then it's a question of how and when do I want to deploy this. And you look at what we're seeing now across the board. We've been looking at it all day. It's all down, bearish, trash, no sign of buyers yet. And then you look at this ocean trade that I remember last year because it was the one time that it just hit me. I was like, holy fuck, this thing's going to moon. And it was a year of consolidation. I mean, a year of summer doldrums. It was from, you know, August 2020 right over to January. I think this goes back even a little further on other exchanges. And it was just bubbling along, but you could see the signs. You could see the buy volume starting to wake up. And then we broke out of this level. And at that time in the market, like 20, 25 alts had just exploded. You know, every day it was a new 80% rally. And then I just saw this one. I was like, holy shit, this thing's going to run. And then, of course, and it runs. And, you know, I like to go back and look at it because it's tagged the Chaos PRZ like a charm. Now, I actually got out of this midway through here. But the point is, I look at that and I always remind myself, you know, do I want to deploy the limited capital I have? Everyone's got limited capital, unless you've got some really sweet cash flow situation. When do I want to deploy it? Here? Now? Looking at that chart in this market? Or if I wait 6 months, 3 months, 2 years, whatever it takes to find an ocean-looking chart like that last one, it's a no-brainer when I think of it that way. And that's what I'm trying to really remind myself. It's so hard to do if you're caught up in social media because everyone somewhere's buying, and you feel influenced by that. But as we talk today, it's kind of helping me like remind myself what I'm here for, which is to find the optimal place to deploy capital in the optimal direction. And it's like late to short, early to long, I guess, in a nutshell. Having said that, I did buy having said all that, I did buy some Bitcoin on this latest, just because the buy volume came in. It was a 4-hour, you know, bullish divergence at 20K, you know, right above 20K. We got all the bull dips coming in. I thought, okay, I'm gonna add a little Bitcoin here, a little ETH. That's the extent of it. But, and God, if we break 20, I might even just go and sell that back. It's annoying, but I might.
Yeah.
That's the best I've got. And that's sort of the revelation I had looking back at some of these old setups. And I thought, damn, like we will be back to a place. And it'll probably be when, like you said, nobody's interested in the market. They've been chopped up trying to trade the washing machine cycle. Like, when you get down to the lows and you just see this kind of thing. And it's like it's a big range. These are like 2 and 3 week rallies. And then you just get dunked to the lows and you just sell it. And then it's, and after a year of this, the volume starts to build up and then we break out. This was probably like 2023 something. That's
listen,
the harsh
there's one
reality.
other.
That's the facts.
There's another dark horse in the bull case is, and I don't know how many people think about this, but I don't know how many people are really familiar with presidential election theory, but leading into
the
an
Q3,
election,
4,
a politician's job is to not, at least the incumbent's job is to not lose his seat, and same goes for the president, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I can almost basically the last half of the term is generally spent, or at least like the fourth quarter of the term is generally spent doing things, getting ready for an election that are going to be more favorable to voters. That's one. And then on the other side of the coin, once they're elected, in the early phase, they do whatever the fuck they want because they have no risk of losing their seat. And so it's kind of like, even if we go into some mega doldrum and there's no catalyst, macro catalyst to drive us back higher, you have that kind of hanging in the wings. So there's some time decay on it, and the closer we get to that, the more that is going to come into play. And you'll see it in the Fed, you'll start to see it in the news. It's just like how the media works, and there you go. So it definitely is something that's waiting in the wings that would give relief. Like at worst case, if all bets are off, you're going to see that come, at some point starting in 2023.
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on the politics. I did hear the idea that the Fed and all that's trying to get this dump over with quickly so that they can push the market up into Q3, Q4 elections and all that. And there's definitely something to that. I think the other thing is people have to realize is we're at this 20K level with Bitcoin. Even if I think it's going to 12, like I said earlier, I don't think it's going to go straight there. In fact, I hope it does. That'd be just get over with. But we are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 red weeks on ETH. And it's accelerating, right? Today, if we were closing this weekly around here, I think that'd probably be the strongest or the weakest week of the 11. And so, if I think we're not going to have some big rally till 2024, do I think it's just like this until, no, we're going to climb the stairs down and we're going to have everyone get back. Like whatever that looks like, It typically looks like, lower, lower.
You just traded ETH negative on that one.
Yeah. I think, at the first look, point being, and this is almost like, if you want an example of this, you just go back to the last bear market. Things are different this time, blah, blah, blah. But price is about, human psychology is the same. And so as the volatility comes out of the market, this is 2026. So bear with me here, guys, on the scale. But point being, it tends to just lose over time until you're totally bored and nobody's looking at it and everyone's onto something else or broke and gone. And then we can begin anew. And I kind of looked at that here. You saw that here with this, right? Same
almost
kind of thing.
It's a Gartner cycle to the T,
yeah,
right?
And that's really what happened. And I remember all through this, right? Everyone was like, "Oh, 6K, the unbreakable level," and I was very exposed to Bitcoin during this, and it was very painful. I was just starting TRI and learning how to trade, and bless their souls, they all waited for this, and then there was signals, and they all started getting long. So somebody in the chat says, is this a good time to go learn how to try? I said, fuck yeah, man. Sign up to something that will improve your skill level for the next bull, because I am of the opinion that what is coming next, cyclically, is the big one. Through the 2020s, we have the infrastructure, the TVL. Like there was such a leap.
Can I just real quick?
Yeah.
If you're going to sign up for anything, make sure RT signs off on it first. Like, there's certain people in this space that you need to stay more than 100 yards away from at all fucking times.
I was actually going the other way with that. I was trying not to go too hard at TRI. Yeah, don't sign up for random education. Sign up for TRI. Look, there's probably 20 guys in the chat right now who have signed up because I said you should. I don't get paid for you guys to do that. I'm not allowed to share ref links, and I don't really care to. It's whatever. The point is, every single one of them has come to me and DM me and said, "Oh, dude, I'm so glad I signed up. I'm on to level 3." You just got to take control of your own situation. And there's a lot of, Sam this and CZ that and these big fish. That's just bullshit. It's cope. The market is the market. The players are the players. And you get to jump in and out whenever you want. And learning how to trade is about learning how and when to do that. So that's what I did during the last bear. And I still got rinsed. And I still struggled through this. I still found this stressful. But I'm in a much better position now than I was then. And I owe it all to having those plans and coming up with those strategies. So I expect us to go into something like this. That does not mean it's going to happen. I've been wrong twice this year already. But that's, my next best guess. And that's what I'm going to operate on. On a scalpy level, I am looking long here. But on a midterm, long-term investment level, I'm only just starting to dabble into the DCAs a little more heavily. Because I was DCAing through this, and I panicked and sold everything on the way down here. So I've got to restart my DCA and maybe a little less aggressively so I don't have to use stop losses. Because as we've just talked about with that strategy, they're actually kind of counterproductive. So if you guys want, look in the chat. There are a few guys there that have been messing around over at TRI. Can't say enough good stuff. Just like it's quality education. So, and like Dan said, there's a lot of trash out there. There's a lot of 20-somethings who get into this.
A lot of trash.
And then people in their lives say, "Oh, I don't want to do this. Why don't you just teach me?" And then they're like, "Yeah, I should start a program." But they get rinsed. They don't quite know what they're doing. So,
it's funny you see them posture so heavily on Twitter, and then they come and me and Rob will somehow interact with them, and then they curl up like a
oh god, it's a real veteran. It's like
no,
it's uncomfortable.
They're like, actually, I don't know a fucking thing about options, to be honest. But
well, level 3 on TRI is where you get into the options. I struggled with that. I find them confusing, and it wasn't my bread and butter. But hanging out with you and Rob, I'm slowly learning my Greeks and getting my head around that. And I cannot wait to trade my derivatives on chain. So, in that sense, it's going to be a good summer.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Hxro Network? We're at the top of the hour. We've been cooking up some ideas around a new show. What kind of leaks do you want to put out there today for us as we get to the top of the hour?
Yeah. So just a quick update, I guess we're in a sandbox right now with a couple of apps that are building on top of the network already. We have a few apps that have already committed to building both in the parimutuels and in derivatives. We're starting with the network's going to start with perps and futures. So it'll be a perp. It'll be like Bitcoin with USDC cross to start, and then likely on Solana and ETH and whatnot. But it'll be a perp, and then 2 weekly futures, 2 monthlies, and then 3 quarterlies behind it. And there's a couple market makers who have written into the sandbox already and are testing in the environment a few of these apps that this will be how most retail traders will access. And then we're integrating the staking incentives and rewards programs, which we've been working very, very hard on creating very good value accrual based token economics for the network. And finally with Hxro token, giving it something that really ties back specifically to value accrual of the network. And stakers are earning a portion of fees as rewards, and that that doubles as your governance weight, your stake weight, and some boosters in there. We're introducing an escrowed hero concept very similar to what GMX has.
That's what I was just going to ask. As a comp, you would say to help somebody understand directly, it would be something close to GMX?
Yeah, I think what GMX did from an ecosystem in terms of, from a token economic system has been bang on. Nice. And the cool thing on Hxro Network is that most of the fees are being derived in USDC, and so you actually will earn USDC if you're as long as you're staking to the network. And then there's several interesting incentive programs within the network, and we're bringing a market together. So obviously people have been able to read about some of the amazing partners that we've had who have joined the network early and actually were part of building out our dexterity and our risk engine Spandex, and it's all coming together right now. So Sandbox, and then a closed mainnet push with some capital blocks, and then opening it up from there. Just completed first audit on staking and rewards, and now we're digging into a couple other aspects of the smart contracts. And as that gets done, we'll continue testing, continue hardening, and then launch. And hopefully, we're doing it at a time when we're kind of like we said at the beginning of the show, very counter-cyclical and starting to push when things are starting to turn a corner, and doing that. And then on top of it, have committed quite a bit of resources now towards building ecosystem, which is something historically we never really did. So, really getting involved heavily, building out a Discord, building a community around the network, and trying to capture network effects. So, should be an exciting next few months, and hopefully a shining beacon of light for everybody. And then I think the last thing that you can speak on too is as a way to get community updates more active, we're going to do a live stream once a week. It'll call it an offshoot of DeltaFi, but it'll be a little more Hxro Network focused, bringing on network participants, partners, founders from apps that are building, and then giving real-time updates from a development perspective, from an ecosystem perspective, what's going on in governance, and making it more of like a Hxro specific show, and using that as our primary mouthpiece.
I love that, and you and I have been going back and forth on that for about a month and a bit now. There's been a lot of buzz in the Discord, when stream. So best case, in my mind, we're going to bring back DeltaFi in a limited sense. For now, I think we have some soft yeses from Messi and Rob, where we can get the crew back together for old time's sake and to keep the torch going. And then obviously a more Hxro Network focused show that I think we can even expand into discussions about the broader market, derivatives in general, options in general, bring in some interesting guests, and get the banter going that way with Rob, yourself, and I. So I'm looking forward to all of it.
Yeah, I want to get guests we want to get guests that you normally wouldn't see. Like, you're going to see some of the same regular faces, but there's some guests who are going to come on that we've had long-time relationships with that are maybe more crossovers from traditional finance, who have now gone heavy into crypto, and try to give from the guest perspective some more experienced point of view, as opposed to kind of the quick hit crypto point of view, and try to mix it up a little bit and get some people on that. Like, I think historically a lot of traders may think this is like a wizard behind a curtain, and trying to bring them out from behind the curtain.
I like the sound of that. I actually don't know who you have in mind there, so I'm excited. We're gonna create a Google Doc of potential guests. Winner in Trading says, if I'm not mistaken, you guys announced a couple of analysts like Ledger and Karush and someone else to join the team. We did not. We have clips of Ledger and Karush on our intro video, I think, because they were guests on the stream last year, and we were just sharing when we were creating that intro video, the idea was to have a variety of, who's been on the show. It's more than just us. We get some guests in, not as much lately, obviously, but back in the day. So we didn't bring them on. We haven't laid anyone off. In fact, we're hiring. As Gunny put out on his Twitter a few weeks ago, we're still looking to add to our content team here. And
Absolutely.
so, it's build season. And I think there's a fine line between getting stuck staring at the market through what you call the summer doldrums. And that is really when I and most people want to take time away, because during the bull, your attention is so valuable. So take the moments you can get. So there's a fine line between get the hell out of here and take a break, but also a fine line there with but don't miss opportunities to build, to grow, to learn how to trade, to identify the mistakes you made perhaps last time. We all make mistakes through this. My second bear market now, third if you count last summer, and I've made some of the same mistakes every time.
I'd say one just to build on that point. I would encourage people to get involved. This is a great time to kind of roll your sleeves up, get involved with your communities. If you're a Hxro holder and you're interested in the community, get involved, become somebody that is a voice for it, or reach out to us and talk to us about how you could make more of an impact. And whether it's Hxro Network or whether it's some other community that's of interest to you, get involved, understand who the people are behind it, and that they're, generally want to find people that have been building for a long time, that are, well funded, that are no bullshit, and get involved. It's how a lot of our contributors to Hxro Network, and also a few people that have been part of Hxro for a while now, they started as community members and decided to lean in a little heavier, and there's massive benefits that come with it, and just be somebody that's part of your community. Community capitalism is about building as a community as well. This is your land that you're all sharing, and you need to help it flourish. Sitting on the sidelines and letting other people do all the work isn't always the best way to go about it. There should be some opportunity for you in there somewhere, whether it's doing something very simple or something very complex. And I'm a big fan of spending your time doing that, as opposed to sitting on the sidelines and waiting.
Yeah, or just moping and bemoaning the mistakes and not setting yourself up to not repeat them. It's really hard sometimes to see the light when you're in a dark place. But if you are in a dark place, which I'm sure many are, because it is a dark market and most people are just net long hold, find the light, be the light. It sounds cheesy, but you really got to find things. I started a fund during the last bear market. Ask me how that went. That was 2 years of absolute agony. We basically fell apart for a year there because we were flat broke. But we stayed ear to the ground. We caught a few big winners early DeFi summer, and we rebuilt, and now we've got a brand, and we're actually hiring. In fact, one of my family members goes to university. He's a software engineering student, and he's got a whole crowd of young, hungry software engineer students who are basically going to intern for us this summer and just kind of write research reports and do research. And we're not paying them, but they're going to learn a lot from us. We're going to enjoy some of the research they're doing for us. That's a perfect example of something that 22-year-olds are doing right now, instead of doing fuck all. So I'm going to be doing a lot of golfing this summer, but in between all that, it's going to be live streams with you, keeping an eye on the levels, setting price alerts, definitely not getting too sucked into scalp life, trying to make it all back. I'm going to let the market do that for me. I just have to wait a little longer.
You'll be amazed at how better your fills become too when you do that.
Yeah. Well, and I have to go back to Solana summer last year, where basically because of what you and I talked about, I started just DCAing into some Sol names, and that was the best trade I made all year. It was the most boring one. It seemed really lame, but looking back, it worked out really well. So
you caught convexity, and
yeah,
that's what these types of trades are about. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff, man.
Okay, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure to be back this week. I am going to be continuing to poke Rob and Messi and Dan. We're going to see if we can get back in here for the full squad sometime in the near future, in June, ideally.
I think
dude, I'm actually going to be in NFT NYC next week. We're going to have to talk.
All right, maybe another day.
But yeah, we'll pick a day. We'll pick a day next week, but the idea is they're lurking. We're going to get them back, and then we're going to introduce our new show as well sometime in the near future. So
For sure.
Have a wonderful day, guys, and whatever you do from now until next time, always play from a position of strength. Take care.